don't draft rookie tight ends in fantasy. That's what they used to say, but maybe that's not quite the right approach anymore. We've seen Brock Bowers and Sam Laporta absolutely dominating their rookie seasons in recent years. But what does it mean for the 2025 fantasy football season? I'm Tom Strachan. I've written hundreds of articles about fantasy football for FantasyPros. And in this video, I'm going to show you how the fantasy football tight end landscape has changed forever and look at which rookie tight ends could just break out completely in 2025 and beyond. That old saying, don't draft rookie tight ends in fantasy football, it was with good reason, because for over 2 decades, they really weren't helpful for fantasy football. And we're not just talking about tight ends who were dart throws in the draft, it was the highly drafted ones as well. There were 25 round 1 tight ends drafted between 2000 and 2022. That included 5 taken in the top 10. Only one of those taken in the top 10 went on to finish as a top 12 tight end in PPR. Kyle Pitts, which seems crazy to say now. That whole group of 25 tight ends from round 1, they gave us 3 top 12 points finishes in total. Kyle Pitts, as we've already mentioned, he finished as a tight end 5 in 2021. Evan Ingram in 2017 finished as tight end 4 after being drafted with a 23rd pick overall. And way back in 2002, Jeremy Shockley scored 145 PPR points and finished as a tight end 4 that year. The Giants, they drafted him as the 14th pick that year. If we look past round 1 at every single fantasy football relevant or irrelevant, as the case might be, tight end who was playing in the league in this time, there were 169 tight ends who saw at least 10 targets in their rookie seasons. 11 finished as a top 12 tight end in total PPR points. 6.5% of tight ends were relevant in their rookie season.
Damn!
So what was it that helped those 11 who did finish as top tight ends? And how can we use that information to our advantage going forward? 19 different tight ends saw a 15% target share between 2000 and 2022. Only 6 of those, or 31% of the players, finished as top 12 tight ends. So dominating in your offense, it isn't necessarily the cheat code. What about volume? You know, if you catch a lot of balls, and surely it's that simple, maybe? Well, 14 players saw at least 60 targets in their rookie season. Only 5 turned into top 12 tight ends. 35% of them. So that isn't the secret sauce either. Surely then touchdowns are making these rookies into studs. Well, 12 different tight ends scored 5 or more touchdowns in their rookie seasons across this time, but only 2 of them, 16%, finished as a top 12 option. So what the hell is it that's turning a rookie tight end into a top 12 fantasy option?
Wait for it. Here it comes.
The truth is, it's complicated, and there's no single stat that creates a unicorn tight end straight away. But stick with me, because in some ways, this makes it easier for us. If we're not looking for one particular stat, then it's easier to stick to the basics. We want players who are good prospects, players who will see the field plenty, and we don't necessarily need to worry about them being on good teams, because a bad defense, that can help with the passing volume. So let's talk about when things changed. But first, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button for more year-round fantasy football content with one simple aim, just to help you win. It's not been a watershed moment, it's just been a steady uptick in rookie tight end production. 2021 saw one of the most hyped prospects at the position ever in Kyle Pitts.
So you see, that's where the trouble began. That smile. That damn smile.
Who, before he became a meme, gave us one of the best rookie tight end seasons ever. Pitts became the first rookie tight end since Mike Ditka in 1961 to break 1,000 yards. That record had stood for over 60 years. Pitts was only the 5th tight end to ever have over 100 targets in his rookie year. His only problem was scoring touchdowns, with just a single touchdown that year. That one touchdown came over here in jolly old England when the Falcons played here. Since then, Pitts, he's been a disappointment, but you can't deny that as the tight end 5 in fantasy in his rookie year, he delivered. to start things off. 2022 wasn't a classic year for tight end rookies, but there weren't many that were drafted highly. Trey McBride was taken at pick 55 in round 2, but immediately cock-blocked by Zach Ertz in Arizona.
No! God, please, no! No!
Jelani Woods, Greg Dulcich, they went in round 3. They had their moments. So did Chigakonkwo and Isaiah Likely, who were 4th-round picks. But when players get picked that late, we know as fantasy players that it's likely going to be a quiet first year for them, and they represent more of a dart throw. We're interested in the ones who get the top end capital, the ones who really can break out and change the game. And in 2023, we were back to that. The first 2 rounds brought us 4 different tight ends. Dalton Kincaid, pick 25, Sam Laporta, pick 34, Michael Mayer, pick 35, and Luke Shoemaker at pick 58. This group, it was a mixed bag, but the 2 highest selections were fine for fantasy. Dalton Kincaid only finished as a tight end 14, but from week 7 onwards, that time in the fantasy season where you need to ratchet things up a notch, he had 7 top 12 weekly finishes, saw 91 targets that season. His biggest shortfall, only 2 touchdowns. Touchdowns, they weren't a problem though for Sam Laporta. He led all tight ends with 9 touchdowns. No other tight end scored more than 6 that year. If we include week 18, when your fantasy team should not be playing, he scored 10. That was the first time since Mike Ditka's historic season in 1961 that a rookie tight end got to double-digit touchdowns. The last time a rookie tight end had even gotten to 9 before Laporta was 1980, over 40 years ago. Laporta also set the rookie tight end receptions record with 86, but it wouldn't stand for long. Enter Brock Bowers, the most hyped prospect since Kyle Pitts. That was until people saw pictures of him. That's right, people faded this guy because he looked a bit scrawny. Never mind the fact that he had absolutely balled out in college. People were worried, and people had been burned. I remember people saying that Kyle Pitts would give such an advantage as a rookie tight end that he should be a top pick in Dynasty Superflex startups. People also pointed to the awful quarterbacks that Bowers had in Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, or Davante Adams being a target hog on the Raiders. People worried too much. This was a different player, different time. Bowers, he went nuclear. And not just after Davante Adams was traded. In the 3 games that they both played, Bowers only averaged 0.71 fewer receptions per game and 6 fewer receiving yards. There was nothing getting in his way. Bowers went on to become the tight end 1 overall and outscore all tight ends, with George Kittle 16 points behind him. 112 receptions that he had were the most by any rookie ever, not just at the tight end position. In fact, Bowers almost broke the records for most ever receptions or targets for a tight end, with only Evan Ingram and Zach Ertz having seen more than the 112 receptions, and only Ertz having more than Bowers' 153 targets. So for 2 years, we've seen rookie tight ends be undervalued and smash in fantasy football. So let's talk about why in 2025 we could get the same impact once again. 2 tight ends were drafted inside the first 14 picks this year. This was the first time since 1992 that 2 tight ends went inside the first 15 picks. In 2019, it was TJ Hockenson, Noah Fant. They went inside the top 25. 2017, OJ Howard and Evan Ingram. They were also inside the top 25. But no 2 tight ends have been drafted this highly in recent years until Colston, Loveland, and Tyler Warren. And there is plenty of reason to be optimistic about both Warren and Loveland. I brought in my good friend, co-host of FantasyPros Best Ball Show, Andrew Erickson, to talk about these rookie tight ends, so you know it's not just me that's high on them.
Let's start with Tyler Warren, who I think has the best case of finishing as that top 3 tight end this season. Because when I look at some of his numbers from last year, super productive, yards after the catch machine, kind of a one-hit wonder in a sense, but he still was pretty productive in 2023. And at Penn State, he was playing behind a lot of NFL talent, specifically at the tight end position. Guys like Brenton Strange, guys like Theo Johnson. Those guys were on that Penn State roster, which was kind of preventing Tyler Warren from taking over. And then the minute that those guys left, we saw Tyler Warren basically take over and explode in 2024, breaking all these records as a Big Ten tight end at Penn State. So when we project him forward to this Colts offense with Shane Steichen, drafted him in the top 15 with their first overall pick. the Colts obviously have a massive need for tight end. So projecting his snaps isn't hard to envision. It seems like a guy that could play a near 100% snap share if he's doing everything, because the Colts cannot go back to this 4-man committee. And when I look at the upside case for Warren, it's kind of tied to touchdowns in a sense, where he scored 20 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. And that was looking at passing, receiving, and rushing, because he has the ability to take on a Taysom Hill-esque role in this Colts offense. Shane Steichen has kind of talked about that, the creative ways that he can use him. Same thing with Chris Ballard. So when I went back and looked at the media coverage for Tyler Warren and how he would project towards the NFL, comparison to Loveland, because basically those are the guys that were compared to throughout the entire draft process. The thing that I saw that was most eye-opening was a lot of people looked at Warren as this guy is probably ready to go day one. He's older, more experienced. Again, he was a 5th-year senior last year at Penn State. I think that when you look at the offense, you have a lot of receivers that we like on the Colts, but is one of them a true established number 1 alpha? Now, Michael Pittman has been that guy. We know he was injured last year, and we like Josh Downs, an ascending talent, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell. They're talented players, but how much of a target share will they command, and how much will that overlap with what the role is for Tyler Warren? All I know is that this current regime in Indianapolis, they're on the hot seat. If this season does not work out with Daniel Jones and Richardson, which again is another problem, the quarterback play in Indianapolis, but when you look at scheme touch, when you look at it, okay, how do we hit the layups? If Daniel Jones comes in with a low average depth of target, well, is it just dump offs to his tight end? Again, a famous cliche from so many years ago was, what's a rookie quarterback's best friend? A tight end. Now, Richardson and Daniel Jones aren't rookies, but sometimes they play like rookie quarterbacks because they don't know what they're doing. So I think that if you are making the bullish case on one of these rookie tight ends, it is Tyler Warren from the Indianapolis Colts to be that guy based on, hey, they use him as a goal line packaged running back quarterback hybrid because they're sick of getting all their quarterbacks injured. I think that Tyler Warren is that ceiling case that I think is probably worth chasing, just because I think that he has the path to immediate production based on his profile, skill set. And I think that he could be this alpha. Again, that was how he's described in the pre-draft process. Alpha, all ball.
Andrew laid out the case for Warren really well. What I'd add to that, though, is that the Colts under Shane Steichen, they've always wanted to play fast. Steichen's done that leading back to his days with the Eagles coaching staff. I spoke to Pat Foreman of Established to Run, who's one of the smartest folks in fantasy football and spends a lot of time analyzing rate of play based data. He said that even last year, with a rocky quarterback situation between Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco, the Colts still ranked top 10 in neutral pace and play clock seconds remaining. This matters because the quicker you play, the more plays per game that you can generate, potentially the more potential points. Pat went on to say the first 3 games of the season last year were really quick on Anthony Richardson, before things slowed down as Shane Steichen started to try to coach around Richardson's deficiencies. But then in week 16, they ramped way back up and were really fast again. Now, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones this year, my bet is on Daniel Jones. The Colts should play quick, and that will help Warren reach his ceiling. If we get word that it is going to be Daniel Jones, then I've got even more faith that he can support someone like Tyler Warren in their rookie season. Now let's talk about Colston Loveland, my tight end 1 heading into the draft, and things haven't changed for me.
I think the path is a little bit tougher just because he's dealing with a shoulder injury, a little bit more in the Bears offense of how he projects. You have another tight end of consequence with Cole Kmet, who they can move on from next year. So I think that Loveland, for me, you're just buying the talent, that he's this guy's the next Brock Bowers from a talent perspective. I think he's a better comp to Bowers than Tyler Warren. And that's what you're just going into. Now, he goes a little bit after Tyler Warren, but I will say that if he gets healthy, because that's when you start drafting, because his draft stocks continue to fall as he's dealing with his shoulder injury. But the guy broke out at 19 years old at Michigan, and he was productive last year, even though he was battling through this injury. So once we get a healthy Colston Loveland, I'll be a little bit more optimistic about what he can do in this Bears upcoming offense. But I think right now, if I'm pushing the chips in on one of these rookie tight ends to be the next Brock Bowers or Sam Laporta, I'm going to go with Tyler Warren from the Indianapolis Colts.
So look, Andrew's a little lower on Loveland than I am, but I'm not being discouraged. The Bears clearly had him as the best tight end for their scheme. And look, we've got Ben Johnson as the Bears head coach, the guy who was responsible for Sam Laporta breaking out in his rookie season. Laporta was reliant on touchdowns to hit big in 2023. No two ways about it. And I'm not trying to run from that fact. And touchdowns, they can be a bit fluky. Laporta had 9 that year, 3 more than anyone else. But when I look at the Bears, I don't see anyone who has the potential to hog all the touchdowns in this offense. We saw the way that Johnson used Laporta in his rookie season, putting him in motion around the line of scrimmage, putting him in speed motion, designing plays for him. Loveland, he's got the athleticism to play that role also. We'll go back to our rookie guide that Rich wrote, and you can get your copy by hitting the join button down below and choosing the silver tier or above. This is the best rookie guide out there. Rich wrote that Loveland is a natural receiver who's great at the catch point, bodying small defenders, consistently making tough grabs outside his frame. As a route runner, that's where Loveland really shines, and he shows an understanding of how to get open, whether that be versus man or zone, line up inside or outside. This is just a guy who is going to come into the NFL and has an opportunity to crush from the get-go. If I had to prioritize him, my priority is Colston Loveland. Andrews is Tyler Warren, but I want exposure to both these guys in fantasy football in 2025. Later on in drafts, Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin, Aronde Gadsden, they're all fun flyers, but the top guys, they are a tier above for me and massive targets in best ball drafts. In redraft, they're more draft and stash type players and see what happens, because expecting a fast start from rookie tight ends, that might be a little unfair. Have I convinced you? Let me know down in the comments below and subscribe as we try and help you make 2025 the best fantasy football season you've ever had.